Hello, hope everyone's having a good day today. Um, Basically, our video today is gonna be on why I started collecting when I did and how that happened and how I would suggest to anyone who is planning to collect to invest for the future, for them to possibly think about going about things. Um, this all for me started the investing portion of it. I would honestly say about 2014 when Phantom Forces came about, and um, I want to say that there was a point in time where I actually kept one pack of Phantom Forces, and that was mainly on a whim, but it was mostly after doing some research, and it's the kind of research that you do, I guess, kind of like without thinking about it, more because when I was in high school around like 2012, 2011, um, sophomore, and you're going into the internet and you're figuring out what you like to do. Well, one of the hobbies that I picked up during that time was actually collecting Pokemon cards. And I used to have a bunch of friends where we would, open and get the cards out, obviously keep some in binders. But at the time, one of the boxes that I thought was one of the best ones to exist was, I want to say, EX Dragon Frontiers. And as a high schooler, I saw the box itself on eBay, and at the time, I want to say that it was like, I think it was like 1,500, a thousand and something, basically. And this box was, well, it was beautiful, and as far as the cards inside of it went, it was, I wanted like those, I think it was those Delta series looking ones, and they were really pretty. And my idea was like, wow, like this box is amazing and I want to get it and keep it long term, why not? But at the same time, you're in high school, and $2,000 is actually a large sum of money. So I didn't actually end up getting it, but I, that stuck in me, the random thought that possibly, maybe one day, I could buy one of those boxes, or buy one of those packs, or buy anything having to do with any classic set, eventually. Well, 2014 ends up rolling around, and that's a year into college. Also, you might hear my dog. He hangs out with me. It's fun. But you go to college, and I end up I end up going to one of the leagues here in Medford, and I went to Astral Games back when, and maybe some of these examples will be so localized, but it was by the Winco. It was like in the middle of town almost, but like on the most southern part of Medford, and it was a quaint little store at the time. They've expanded since. It's really nice. But it was nice, and I did end up buying some packs there. And I don't know, it was something about having this singular pack that I could keep long term. The idea was that if this box was $2,000 at this time, it wasn't always $2,000, because the set released somewhere in the 2000s, and it was after the WotC era. But somewhere along the line, this box went from being retail, which I'm not sure what retail was, but it went from retail all the way to $2,000. And that was really strange to me, because it meant that Pokemon could somehow carry value over time. At the time, I was an education major. I didn't know much about time value of money and accounting or analytics or any of the cool things I've learned since. But it was an interesting thought. And then eventually, you're a player for a while. And one of the years, I forgot which one, I want to say 2016, but one of the years, I got a really good tax return. And what does a semi-responsible adult do with that sum of money? Well, I bought a case of Ancient Origins, and for a split second, because this decision was made amongst friends, because technically I wasn't the only one who pitched into this case, the thought was, what if we kept the case sealed? After all, Ancient Origins, it seemed like a promising set, you know, at the time. It was a medium set, well, by today's standards, a medium set, and it had the primal Pokemon within it, I think. I forget if they were secret rares or regular full arts, but you had the Kyogre, the Groudon, and the Rayquaza. Wow. I'm either sleepy or just forgetful, but it had all three of them. And additionally, it had a whole bunch of other EX Pokemon that looked pretty cool. So I thought, you know, this might be a set to actually keep long term. And so my hope was, if we could keep the case, then maybe we could let it ride long term and then see what its value is over time. Well, not only did I lose the vote, but I also was convinced otherwise, because, you know, when you start collecting Pokemon cards, you're kind of like, I want to open this set, and I want to open that set, and I want to open all these packs because it's exciting, and, you know, we're humans, so that instant gratification thing is kind of a thing. So the point is that I end up opening all of those packs, and, you know, you get your binder, you fill it up more. If I'm honest with myself, I have none of the cards that came from that case anymore. Which, you know, you make decisions, and honestly, it was fun. So there was no actual loss there. It was more just the enjoyment of the hobby. And so from there, I want to say I still had that Phantom Forces pack somewhere, but it was just hanging about. There was no real idea there, but when you did look up the pack at that point, I think a Phantom Forces pack had just gone to like $8 in a course of 2 years, and so you don't see the full picture. You don't get to see all of it, and to that point, you know, seeing those small changes, because $4 to $8 doesn't really seem like a big deal, but when you actually learn about the analytics, when you actually learn about how these things actually change over time, and don't just take into account that, hey, you know what, this is small beans. Yeah, it's small beans because we're working with small numbers, but in reality, what I had was something that increased in value an entire, like, portion of itself. So instead of being its actual price of $4 or $3 and change at the time, it was $8. It was an entire 100% value that I didn't have to do anything for. It just did it on its own, and that was kind of something that I ended up learning when I came back to school for business administration, accounting, and, you know, the whole certificate for information systems regarding those things. So if we fast forward to 2018 is when I actually started to think about, you know what, I'm gonna do this long term. And it was basically because I ended up looking back at the it wasn't Dragons Exalted, Dragon Frontiers, because we aren't prepped, and so I have to pull this from my phone, and it's out of stock. Darn, let's go on eBay. But it was basically in going back to these sets, and so Dragon Frontiers booster box. You know, it just comes back to your head like, hey, you know what would have happened if I somehow managed to, like, gather those $2,000 at the time and actually bought that box? What would have happened? Well, like, for instance, today, one of the most recent solds on that set was actually $305. So, dude, $305, $6 shipping, but we're just gonna do the 305 times 36. You get a total of $10,000, $180. And that's not even the premium of having an actual sealed box. So keeping all that in mind, it's kind of like, how does that happen? How does a box, how does a pack, how does a random unregistered asset gain that much value? And that's where I started watching other YouTubers, like, well, at the time, I think one of the most popular ones that I ended up liking was Alpha Investments. And you know, he calls people Timmies and blah blah blah. But overall, it's the core of the message that I got was that, one, if you invest in the things that you like or that you have a knowledge base within, and that's something that grows over time, like learning about prices over time, and then trying to figure out what kinds of sets actually grow over time more than others. And another reminder is that you might never actually know. It's not a guarantee, it's not an exact science, although anything with a Charizard, Champion's Path, anything with a Charizard usually tends to do well. What I learned was that if I was gonna do something, that might grow, that might have a chance to be something more, one, I would have to get involved. Two, I would have to put in the time to do the research, to experience the game not only as a player, but a collector, an investor. And that's what I did. For the time between like 2016 to 2018, I spent my time being a player. I spent my time learning how to play the game, and at some point I even became a judge, and it was fun, and I'm technically still a judge. I just have like the basic certifications, and I think I have a level 1 on judging and tournament organizing, I think. The only one I didn't actually get into much was the VGC, because I don't know much about that. But we get to the point where in 2018 I decided to buy the first case of any set that I had ever gotten, and because I didn't have much in funds, I did end up buying a pin case. So not a full case like where they come with all 4 of them in one big box. I actually just bought a sealed case of Dragon Majesty, and that's the one up there. No longer sealed, because I chose to open it earlier this year, or late last year. But that's where this came from. And this is actually a really cool box, because it has 3 of the restroom packs, and it's also got Latias, which is one of my favorite Pokemon. But I ended up getting this from MVP Sports and Games, who later on actually ended up becoming one of my... They're not a distributor, but they are a company that then created this sort of program for certain buyers that bought over a certain threshold over time. And I've had a partnership with them since, and I've been able to get stuff for somewhat cheaper. But basically, I got the Dragon Majesty pins for I think $10 and change. And that pin case came with 8 of them, so I bought an entire pin case for about $80-$90, including shipping, which super cheap, now, because in 2018 that was under retail. Obviously I got it at a discount, but now the most recent price that's available is $120 for a 3-pack box. And if you do the math, so let's do 120 divided by 10, we've multiplied by 12 times. And the shipping for this type of box, I would imagine I could get it into, well, I'd probably ship medium priority mail because I wouldn't want to try and fit it into a small box. But the fact is, and it remains, that specialty sets like this one do tend to do a lot better than a regular set counterpart, mainly because these types of specialty sets only come in either 3-pack pin collections or in smaller, like, specialty boxes. The largest quantity, like, pack-wise, that you could get was in the premium collection, which was, I want to say, $100 at the time for MSRP, or you could have gotten the Elite Trainer box for, I think, $50. So unless you're willing to spend that at the time, which it really isn't that much money, and the prices didn't actually end up changing until more recently, where you, like, the most recent Crown Zenith, Crown Zenith, I almost forgot its name. But, you know, Crown Zenith is, I think, $55 or $60 MSRP at big box stores, when the rest of them were like $50 beforehand. So it's just really cool to see that time value grow over time, especially when you see that, like, if you were to open a pack of Dragon Majesty, you might not actually get that much value out of it, but what was it, the no F's given rule from Rudy's video, forgot which one it was, but it is something that happens, and it's something that I've actually spent a lot of time tracking, because when I had little bits of inventory, I started tracking different sets and how much individual packs were growing over time. And obviously for me, this has actually already hit its threshold, because my general hope, or my general rule, is if you are going to sell something, it has to be something that has grown up to 10 times its value, because that makes shipping worth it. It makes the overall profit easier to be okay with, because you end up paying taxes on it, and you end up paying shipping on it, and you end up paying, you know, losing out on those fees if you end up using TCG Player, eBay, or any of the other e-commerce platforms. But back to the topic, something to keep in mind, I guess, or best rules to give, now it's pretty late in the video, but best rules to give is only buy what you're comfortable with. Like, don't buy because someone's all like, yeah, Crown Zenith, you know, you gotta get it because it's gonna be really popular and you're not gonna get another chance. You know, you can't follow the FOMO. You have to invest in a way that's like, I like this set because I really like it. Like, from this set specifically, I liked all the dragons from it. From this set specifically, I love the Latias and the Latias promos. I love these little pins in these boxes. And the design of that actual pin case, it's cute. It's beautiful to me. And that was more than enough. That was more than enough for me to be like, this is exactly what I want. I didn't feel like buying Elite Trainer boxes because I didn't like all the purple. And I didn't like the fact that it had what is it? Dragon Pokemon with a pointy tail at the bottom. I can't remember. But see, I couldn't even remember the Pokemon that was on it. That made it less memorable to me. That made it less special to me personally. But I did choose to invest in the things that I really believed in. Like, during celebrations, I have, I think, at least 10 of those Elite Trainer boxes. Hidden Fates, I started off with like 4 Elite Trainer boxes. There were multiple waves over time, but I think I ended up accumulating at least 20 of those. The bad, which I mentioned in the first video, was actually that I ended up going to, I think, Target also, like back when that was happening. And I had been shopping with one of my best friends, and we walked up to the Pokemon area, and I saw fully stocked all of the Mew and Mewtwo pin collections. You can't see them all, but, oh wait, you can see some over there in the bottom. Let me tell you, that is stocked. 16 there, 4 here. So that's 20. And I bought all of those at retail, which was $14.99. And now they're like 80 a piece. I mean, just buy what you believe in. Buy what makes you happy, and you don't get the feeling that you're losing out. And if you do, well, I guess a rule that or a general thing that I was told by one of my managers at the company I work for, which is that even if a stock goes down, you haven't actually lost any money until you sell that item. Which means that at any point in time, something might happen randomly where the market goes up. And right now is a perfect time to look at that. Because the reality is that most Pokemon products, even if, they were bad, really, really bad, like battle styles in Sword and Shield specifically, the fact remains that battle styles is still not really, like, it is under MSRP. It's like, what, $2.87 if you were to buy a pack. If you were to buy a booster box, you're probably looking at like $95. But the truth is, it's never gonna retrace under 70. Fact of life. Rudy says don't use the guarantee word, but the reality is that even in a bad economy where people are either getting laid off in larger tech companies or, the rise of inflation and people losing value in practically everything, Pokemon has stayed stagnant, if not gotten better. And that's in a bad economy. So the truth is that most of these items, I see them going up. In front of me, sorry, I keep looking down here, but I have my little Ultra Pro thing where I have a whole bunch of packs. I've got Darkness Ablaze, Ultra Prism, Champion's Path, Guardians Rising, Sword Shield, Battle Styles, got individual Dragon Majesty, and of course, the worst of the worst, Crimson Invasion. I think those packs are at like $6 now. The worst of the worst. But yeah, buy what you're comfortable with. Make sure that you know your risk, so don't get into credit card debt. Personal experience, it's not very fun. And if you don't think about it, then yeah, none of your stuff is really affected. But if you think about it and you really take that into consideration, well, if you have a high sort of like interest on your card, and it doesn't really matter if you end up getting that Vivid Voltage at $30 if you end up paying off that interest over the course of a long time. So be safe in that area. Know the safety of where you're living. In my experience, I didn't really like the idea of buying stuff while I was living in an apartment. Mainly because, there's a lot of people, and so if you get a package, you're always wondering, is it okay? Is it safe? Am I going to be home that day? Am I able to go home during the time that I think that it's going to arrive? Things to consider, like the safety of that. Knowing whether or not you can provide your own security system, which is really important. I mean, I've invested quite a bit into my own security where I have to keep my stuff, so yeah, be safe, do the best you can, invest in what you believe in, and, follow your dreams. But the point is just do the best you can, and I don't see this stuff going away. It's honestly, again, like the most successful multimedia franchise that has existed in a while. So, yeah. Have a great night, everyone. Bye-bye.